Tonight on NewsWatch, stepping forward in Syria, what the United Nations says has to happen before the country can enter peace talks.
Plus, is hand soap healthy? How a decision from the FDA could change how many products are sold.
And how one church is working to bring some civil discussion back to one of the most heatedly debated topics around. All this and more tonight on NewsWatch. This week alone, more than 200 Syrians have been killed in the country's bloody civil war. Good evening. I'm Mark Martin.
And I'm Wendy Griffith. Among that 200, 28 children are dead. The head of the United Nations says the Syrian conflict has deteriorated beyond all imagination. And now reports are surfacing that al-Qaeda rebels there are using children to carry out their attacks. Heather Sells has more in tonight's top story.
The music is chilling, and so is the strategy. The Washington Post reports that al-Qaeda rebels in Syria are training children as young as 10 for military missions, including suicide bombings. Human rights groups say secularist rebels and government militias are also using child soldiers in Syria. It's yet another reason why the United Nations Secretary is demanding a ceasefire before peace talks begin next month.
We must have cessation of hostilities before we begin political dialogue on Syria.
Both the U.S. and Russia have helped to broker the talks.
We are committed to trying to bring people together, a strong representation of the opposition, together with the Assad regime representatives and with maybe 30 or so other countries, and all try to work in the same direction, which is to get a political settlement out of Syria.
The head of the UN is hoping that a ceasefire would pave the way for a political solution to the 2.5-year conflict. But in recent weeks, violence has surged as the warring sides try to hold on to or claim new territory as a possible negotiating strategy. One sign of progress, the authorization today of a plan to destroy Syria's chemical weapons. At The Hague in the Netherlands, the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons approved the details. The already public plan includes help from Denmark and Norway, with the final destruction taking place on a U.S. ship. Mid-2014 is the deadline. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Author and Middle East expert Dr. Walid Phares joins us now with more. Walid, do you think that the civil war in Syria has opened a door for the region to become a breeding ground for Islamic extremism?
It's both ways. On the one hand, the fact that the Obama administration did not, in 2011, while we were in Iraq, intervene with a wide coalition, making sure that Hezbollah and Iran do not intervene in Syria, making sure that al-Qaeda, which was not present in the beginning, since this has not been done, then of course the jihadists coming from Libya, Tunisia, around the world have now formed a very large pool of fighters. At the same time, those jihadists have existed before. They were projected to seize the opportunity and come. It's really the absence of real U.S. and Western policy that allowed them to now transform Syria perhaps to a Afghanistan-like battlefield.
The United Nations is actually calling for a ceasefire in Syria. Is that going to happen?
A ceasefire in Syria without the consent of both parties is going to be very difficult. The problem is that the Assad regime would not consent before they control all cities. And the other problem is that the opposition is divided between the more secular and moderate FSA, Free Syria Army, and the ascending and growing jihadists who for sure are not going to be accepting any strategic ceasefire. They may accept a ceasefire in a neighborhood, but not across Syria because they feel that they're making progress.
Do you see an end in sight to the civil war in Syria?
It is unfortunate, but I cannot see an immediate end or even a medium end to the civil war in Syria as long as we don't have a policy for Syria. Unfortunately, we are now engaging the Islamist front on the one hand, and we have engaged the Iranians. We have engaged the two wrong sides, the real society, the real group that we need to engage our civil society inside Syria. That would be moderate Sunnis, Christians, Druze, Kurds, and anybody who's willing to do peace in Syria. Unfortunately, we have not done it.
The humanitarian crisis is tremendous associated with this. Talk a little bit about that. Do you think the average person who's going to see this interview realizes the magnitude, Walid?
I hope they will. We have been receiving very worrisome reports about how children, and older people are dying in refugee camps in Lebanon and in Jordan and in Turkey, specifically after the wave of cold. We really need to do something for Syria or for the Syrian refugees. We're talking about the largest group of refugees now existing in the Middle East and not really administered. So it is a tragedy.
It sure is. All right, Middle East expert Dr. Walid Phares, thank you for your time and your insights, sir.
Thank you.
Here at home, the bipartisan budget deal has cleared a major hurdle in the Senate. In a vote of 67 to 33, lawmakers decided to end debate on the measure. The key procedural vote means the bill has overcome the possibility of a Republican filibuster. The Senate is expected to vote on final passage of the budget Wednesday. It will then head to the president's desk to be signed into law.
The U.S. Senate has confirmed Jeh Johnson as the new head of the Department of Homeland Security. Johnson, a former top Pentagon lawyer, was President Obama's pick for the job. His confirmation comes as a defeat to a Republican filibuster. Johnson is the fourth person to lead the Department of Homeland Security since its inception after the 9/11 attacks. About 40% of senior leadership positions in the department are currently vacant. Johnson says filling those posts is among his top priorities.
The man behind the National Security Agency leaks is seeking asylum in Brazil. In a letter released today, Edward Snowden offers to help Brazil investigate NSA surveillance activity in exchange for political asylum. Snowden's request comes just days after one NSA task force leader suggested the U.S. grant Snowden amnesty, a suggestion the Obama administration quickly shot down.
Has been accused of leaking classified information, and he faces felony charges here in the United States.
Part of that classified information includes the revelation the NSA collects phone data on calls here in the U.S., a move a federal judge yesterday ruled unconstitutional. That decision has been put on hold pending an appeal from the government. Many predict the case will ultimately be decided by the Supreme Court.
The Federal Reserve today kicked off a two-day meeting determining the future of the current economic stimulus program. Fed Chairman Ben Bernanke is preparing to leave his post in the new year, and many speculate that'll bring about an end to the stimulus measures aimed at keeping interest rates low. Bernanke's expected successor, Janet Yellen, said during her Senate confirmation hearing that the current program cannot continue indefinitely, but it will remain until the economy shows further improvement. The highly anticipated decision will be announced tomorrow.
In health news, antibacterial soaps may be doing more harm than good. And the Food and Drug Administration says the soaps might actually be dangerous to your health. Health reporter Lori Johnson explains the problem.
Millions of Americans choose antibacterial soaps and body washes thinking they're better than ordinary soap. But the FDA shocked consumers by announcing these products aren't better at all, and in fact could be a lot worse. So bad that they may be removed from store shelves.
Believe it or not, we have lots of good bacteria in our body, bacteria that keeps us healthy. Antibacterial soaps can kill that good bacteria, leading to serious issues like antibiotic resistance or hormone problems.
The FDA says research from animal studies suggested that daily exposure to antibacterial chemicals had an effect on estrogen, testosterone, and thyroid hormones. There are about 2,000 antibacterial soaps, washes, and deodorants on the market, and they're pretty easy to recognize. Most say antibacterial, antimicrobial, or antiseptic right on the label. Another giveaway is they're required to display a drug facts label. Look for the active ingredient triclosan. As you might expect, the companies that make these products think the FDA concerns are overblown.
The fact is, triclosan is safe, has an extensive track record, human health and environmental safety.
The FDA wants to give antibacterial soap companies a year to try to prove their products are safe and better than regular soap. And if they can't, the products must be reformulated, relabeled, or removed from store shelves by 2016. In the meantime, the FDA still says washing your hands is the best way to avoid getting sick, preferably with good old-fashioned regular soap and water. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Hundreds of firefighters are battling a 500-acre brush fire in California. Big Sur is historically one of the wettest places in the state, but like the rest of California, the area is experiencing the driest calendar year on record. The off-season fire has destroyed 15 homes so far and forced the evacuation of at least 100 people.
I just haven't absorbed it all yet. I walked out the door to go what I thought was a fire somewhere else, and there was ashes and sparks going right by my front door.
The cause of the fire is still under investigation. Meanwhile, the American Red Cross is providing water and food for those in need. Officials are hoping to have the fire fully contained by the end of the week.
Coming up, as residents continue typhoon cleanup, a look how CBN disaster relief teams are ministering to the folks in the Philippines.
My husband, Gary, departed for heaven. I was still grieving. And then to find out I had cancer, I began praying, God, how do I do this? Where do I do this? Cancer Treatment Centers of America was the place. Dr. Neelam outlined a plan that would take care of my mind and my body, and she prayed with me.
For Bible-believing Christians, we're able to pray with them in a much deeper way as they begin to really rely upon their faith.
At Cancer Treatment Centers of America, we believe in the power of faith and prayer as indispensable allies in the fight against complex and advanced stage cancer.
I'm back in Telluride on the mountain skiing. I feel strong and healthy.
Advanced medicine and technology.
And I am a survivor.
The warm embrace of the Spirit and the power of prayer.
These are happy tears.
Please go to cancercenter.com/faith. Appointments available now. Cancer Treatment Centers of America. Care that never quits.
Attention sleep apnea patients. Are you tired of the expense and hassle of getting your CPAP and BiPAP supplies? Are you fed up with dealing with ill-fitting, leaking, or worn-out masks and straps? Are you worried about the effects that unsanitary tubes, cushions, and filters have on your health? If you said yes to any of these questions, Allied Medical Supply Network has the solution to your problems. You could qualify to have your supplies regularly delivered right to your door at little or no cost to you. That's right, no more inconvenience, no worn-out masks and straps, no more unsanitary equipment, just restful sleep. Call Allied Medical Supply Network today to determine if you may qualify to receive your fresh, brand-name supplies at little or no cost. Don't delay. Call us now to see if you are eligible to save money on regular delivery of your CPAP and BiPAP supplies. Call 1-800-815-9947. That's 1-800-815-9947. Or go to cpapsupplyhelpline.com.
The U.S. is pledging $40 million in military aid to help the Philippines protect its territorial waters. Secretary of State John Kerry made the announcement during his visit to the Asian nation. This comes amid rising tensions with China over territories in the South China Sea. Part of the U.S. aid money will be used to strengthen Filipino counterterrorism efforts against al-Qaeda-linked militants. Kerry says the announcement is part of the Obama administration's decision to refocus on Asia. Meanwhile, over 6,000 people are dead after that massive typhoon hit the Philippines last month. Nearly 1,800 people still missing, Mark.
20 to 30 bodies are still being found every day, making it the worst natural disaster on record in the Philippines.
Our Lucille Toulousan has been on the ground there and has been there since the tragedy happened. She brings us this look at how folks are relying on God to get them through.
Several weeks after Typhoon Haiyan struck, villagers are still struggling to recover from the loss of loved ones and homes.
That is my granddaughter along the road. The other one is still missing. We also lost our house. Everything is gone.
This lady pastor who accompanied us prayed for Rico and invited him to attend church. Many like Rico have turned to God because of the tragedy. But even the most faithful church workers have also experienced hardship and loss.
So this is where Pastor Dante lives, and this is where his 3 children were swept away by the surging waters.
We were holding on to the beam of our ceiling when the big waves collapsed our house, and we were swallowed by the big waves.
Only one son survived. When the water subsided, they found the bodies of their sons aged 13 and 7 clutching each other, while the body of their 5-year-old daughter was found the next day underneath a neighbor's dog who guarded her overnight.
We will miss them so much. We worked so hard for their future. They helped us in our feeding ministry. We feed the children, but all that is gone. We don't know where to start, but we believe God will not forsake us. He has a purpose why we are still alive.
Dolor is also grieving over the death of her mother and 13 other family members. The news team noticed a wound on Dolor's foot. We took her and surviving family members to a CBN Disaster Relief Medical Clinic. A doctor examined and cleaned Dolor's wound. She was also given anti-tetanus shot, vitamins, and medicines for her family. The family appreciated time with the CBN counselor who listened to them and prayed for their needs.
We did not expect that people like you will come to help us. Your smiles make our hearts smile as well. Thank you so much for comforting and encouraging us. This is a very difficult time for us, but we shall cling to the Lord because He alone gives us strength. And we will cling to His Word because His Word alone will sustain us.
Lucille Talusan, CBN News, Tacloban, Philippines.
For more on the work CBN is doing in the Philippines and around the world, visit our website, cbnnews.com.
Up next, a new take on debating same-sex marriage. Listening to the other side. We'll explain when we come back.
Jim is 38, mortgage, married, 3 great kids. He wants to protect his family with a $500,000 term life insurance policy. What do you think it'll cost him? $100 a month? 60? 40? Actually, none of the above. Jim can get a $500,000 policy from a highly rated insurer for under $19 a month. His secret? SelectQuote. SelectQuote is impartial. They'll comparison shop the pick of insurance companies like these to give you a choice of your best prices. SelectQuote has great savings on term life for women, too. Jim's wife, Deidre, can get a $500,000 policy for under $16 a month. SelectQuote has helped make term life insurance affordable for hundreds of thousands of people since 1985. How about you? Just call this number or go to SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote. We shop, you save.
Attention sleep apnea patients. Are you tired of the expense and hassle of getting your CPAP and BiPAP supplies? Are you fed up with dealing with ill-fitting, leaking, or worn-out masks and straps? Are you worried about the effects that unsanitary tubes, cushions, and filters have on your health? If you said yes to any of these questions, Allied Medical Supply Network has the solution to your problems. You could qualify to have your supplies regularly delivered right to your door at little or no cost to you. That's right, no more inconvenience, no worn-out masks and straps, no more unsanitary equipment, just restful sleep. Call Allied Medical Supply Network today to determine if you may qualify to receive your fresh, brand-name supplies at little or no cost. Don't delay. Call us now to see if you are eligible to save money on regular delivery of your CPAP and BiPAP supplies. Call 1-800-815-9947. That's 1-800-815-9947. Or go to cpapsupplyhelpline.com.
The debate over same-sex marriage is often framed as a culture war, but some people are trying a different approach, that is, a civil discussion of the issues.
A church recently sponsored a conversation on marriage in St. Louis, where both sides listened to what the other had to say. Heather Sells was there.
Most of us are all too familiar with the battle over marriage.
Homophobia's got to go.
It's grown full of angry activists, soundbite slogans, and seemingly no common ground. That's why one church rented a nightclub in downtown St. Louis and invited both sides for an evening of calm discussion over the red-hot topic. Taking center stage, gay philosopher John Corvino and Christian philosopher Matthew Lee Anderson. What's happening here in St. Louis breaks new ground in that it provides a different way to talk about one of the most divisive issues of our day. In fact, the event is billed not as a debate, but as a reasonable conversation.
So much of the marriage debate that we see in public on stage does involve the sound bites, the zingers, how do I slam this guy and get everybody to cheer and yell and laugh and clap. And we want to do something different.
A non-denominational evangelical church, The Journey, organized the evening. It drew a younger crowd with a wide range of beliefs, but all hoping for a deep exploration of the issue.
We're really, honestly, just wondering what both sides have to say. I'm happy that it's even happening in general, that it's something that people are talking about.
I think people should support homosexuality and gay marriage and all those things. And I find it interesting that people are so against it, just, from a religious standpoint.
As the evening progressed, it became clear that Corvino and Anderson, while calmly sipping tea, would not shy away from speaking to the hardest points, like this on equality.
Conceptions like fairness and equality are massively disputed here. Sure. The LGBT movement has done a very good job of branding itself and claiming equality. And I think there's just a fundamental disagreement over what the conditions of equality are.
And the value of marriage for gays.
Relationships are good for people, and marriage is good for relationships. Marriage is a way of recognizing people as the family unit they understand themselves to be.
Also addressed harassment of gays and intolerance for Christians.
So it may be the case that in many rural communities and suburban communities, LGBT people experience severe hostility and repression, and that's unfortunate. But it is also the case that if you get into an elite context in the academy, in Hollywood, in New York, and some of these places, there are genuine social costs that people with conservative positions on human sexuality pay.
What seemed to make the evening work, Corvino and Anderson's willingness to engage on all questions, while showing humor along the way.
I'm interested in a Christianity that thinks not only about our current situation, but that thinks 500 years down the road. And if we...
That's a lot to have on your mind.
It's a lot to have on your mind, but I think it's actually a responsible thing to do, to think multi-generationally about this.
In the end, no one converted to the other side, but those we spoke with felt better informed and grateful that neither side turned on the other.
I think it's good that there's a dialogue going on, that, it's not a us versus them.
It's natural to disagree. That's just human nature. But to be able to be, poignant, but at the same time, not offensive and just open about that dialogue, I thought was awesome.
I come from a Christian background, and so getting to hear both sides and getting to especially hear John coming from the atheistic view and getting to hear his perspective was really enlightening.
As the church seeks to find its voice in a culture that frequently dismisses biblical views, such forums could pave the way. Author and speaker Eric Metaxas says believers must explore a variety of approaches. The key, he says, showing boldness, humility, and love.
If your heart does not break for somebody struggling with same-sex attraction, you have no business talking to them or even about them. We're called to love people, right? And so if people don't see that love, how are they not going to tune us out?
If it's up to Corvino and Anderson, they'll take this show on the road. A small step, perhaps, but one that could lead the way for addressing an issue that affects us all. Reporting in St. Louis, Heather Sells, CBN News.
Up next, a small town in Texas gets a surprising visit from a secret Santa.
Hello? Is this thing on? Hey, kids,
you love games? And do you love discovering things? Well, do ya?
Then you're gonna love this. It's the new free Superbook Kids Bible app. You can play games, watch videos, find answers to your questions, and a whole lot more. The new Superbook Kids Bible app. Free downloads available on iTunes and Google Play now.
Announcing an important breakthrough in healthcare that can benefit everyone. If you or anyone you love needs affordable health insurance, regardless of a pre-existing medical condition, call Quick Insurance 123 today and get the immediate relief you deserve. Quick Insurance 123 was created to provide affordable health insurance to all uninsured Americans, with or without pre-existing conditions. This is not a discount card. This is a real insurance program that lets you choose from many affordable health plans, with access to doctors, hospitals, emergency services, and more. So call the number on your screen now and get the health coverage you need, just for calling. As a special bonus, we'll send you a free prescription savings card that could save you up to 85% on your prescriptions. That's right, you could save up to 85% on your prescriptions just for calling. Call Quick Insurance 123 to find out how you can get affordable health insurance and receive your free prescription savings card just for calling. Don't wait. Getting a free quote is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Call today.
Attention sleep apnea patients. Are you tired of the expense and hassle of getting your CPAP and BiPAP supplies? Are you fed up with dealing with ill-fitting, leaking, or worn-out masks and straps? Are you worried about the effects that unsanitary tubes, cushions, and filters have on your health? If you said yes to any of these questions, Allied Medical Supply Network has the solution to your problems. You could qualify to have your supplies regularly delivered right to your door at little or no cost to you. That's right, no more inconvenience, no worn-out masks and straps, no more unsanitary equipment, just restful sleep. Call Allied Medical Supply Network today to determine if you may qualify to receive your fresh, brand-name supplies at little or no cost. Don't delay. Call us now to see if you are eligible to save money on regular delivery of your CPAP and BiPAP supplies. Call 1-800-815-9947. That's 1-800-815-9947. Or go to cpapsupplyhelpline.com.
And finally tonight, the season of giving is in full effect in Granbury, Texas. A person is taking the time to make a difference at a local Walmart.
Yeah, the so-called anonymous angel is helping parents buy gifts.
We have our very own mystery here in Granbury.
A Secret Santa paid for all the gifts that were on layaway, offering an amazing break for many parents who are working to pay off Christmas toys for their kids.
I asked if it was just me specifically, if I knew the Secret Santa, if someone was just doing something nice for me, and they said no. I'm just in awe of this person, and it's just so wonderful that somebody's willing to do that and able to do that.
That is great. Well, Walmart says the anonymous donor paid at least $2,000 for the toys alone. There's no better time for a Secret Santa to help local families in Granbury. Back in May, a deadly tornado tore through the town. Residents there say this random act of generosity will go a long way to help in the rebuilding process.
I am just in awe of that.
Yeah,
I
that's
really
great.
am. Talk about an act of random kindness.
I know.
And what a great time of year.
Such a blessing.
He's going to be blessed,
Yep.
right? She.
That's all for this edition of NewsWatch.
See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.